por aquí. Y lista por aquí. All right, Miss Natasha, thank you so much. Maestra Natasha, thank you so much for meeting with me.
De nada, maestra Paula.
All right, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about, teaching how to read and teaching language arts and how the curriculum looks. And I am so grateful that you have so many years of experience right under your belt because I'm so excited that we can talk about this. So, I have my first question for you will be what is your philosophy of language arts teaching?
I'm never sure when, and I probably should have looked it up before this, when I'm asked what my philosophy is, if that really means like philosophically or like more technically like what programs we use. But I've been trained a little bit in open court and a little bit in SIPs and in Michael Haggerty's phonemic awareness training, in GLAD, which is guided language acquisition and development. I actually can't remember all the guided language. I can't remember what that acronym stands for, but it's for English language learners. Estrellita for Spanish, and then Teachers College Reading and Writing Project. So all of these different programs with these different ideas of what the best way is to teach kids, and I've sort of taken a little bit from each of them, and I feel like it's really important to teach kids through phonics and also through whole language, through shared reading and looking at word study and all those different parts together, because some kids learn reading more phonetically, some kids learn reading more through whole language, and so we want to try to make all of them, give all of them the tools they need and let them all learn the way that works best for them. And I also feel like it's really important to honor kids' home languages. I taught for many years at schools that served majority Spanish-speaking students and didn't teach any literacy in Spanish, and in fact treated the fact that they were English language learners as a deficit rather than an asset. And so I think that that's why I was so excited to get this job at a dual immersion school. And unfortunately, we still have kids who come to us speaking a language other than English or Spanish, and we're not able to teach literacy in their home language because I don't speak it or it's not part of our program. But at least for the kids whose home language is Spanish or English, we're serving them well, I think. What else can I tell you? I think that language is about expressing yourself. So it should be engaging to people, to be studying language and reading and writing. It should be joyful, it should be fun, it should feel satisfying. And it can be frustrating too, but I think the more we can infuse like joy and love into it, the more effective we're gonna be, obviously. And it just seems like there's so many opportunities to do that with language learning because kids can express themselves through writing. We can find books to read about things they love. I always interview my families at the beginning of the year and ask them what their kid likes, what their kid is interested in, and what sort of books they like too. And then I go to the public library usually at the beginning of the year and try to take out as many books as I can about the topics that my students like, so that we have lots of books in the classroom that they like. So just little things like that. I think there's so many opportunities to make it about them and about what they love. And so I hope it's fun for them.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I definitely agree with you. I do think it's very important to engage the kids and to find material that they enjoy. I think if, we have a group that reads what they love, then they will learn how to read. And so that's awesome. Going back to teaching multilingual students, I wanted to. It's very difficult to teach reading in a multilinguistic classroom, right? Or multilingual classroom. What are your tips on teaching how to read multilingual students?
So it's good. I think it's good to have very clearly designated times for each language, which doesn't mean you can't accept a student's home language whenever they're giving it to you. Like I accept whatever language a kid is expressing herself or himself in. But like when we're teaching, and I don't think you've had the opportunity to see this on Zoom because it's so different, but when we're teaching in person, we generally have a part of the day, usually the morning is devoted to Spanish, and I only speak in Spanish during the day unless there's like something, some sort of like somebody's really upset or there's an emergency or something. But I only speak in Spanish during the morning. And then after lunch, I only speak in English. And I'm really explicit about why we're doing that, and including recess. In the morning at recess, I'm only speaking to kids in Spanish. They'll talk to me in English. I'll talk back to them in Spanish. So the specific time of day, and I think at other schools, actually at our school, we're the only grade level in kindergarten where we have the same kids all day long. Starting in first grade, they switched teachers, so it's even more clear. This is your English teacher, this is your Spanish teacher, and it used to be that way at our school for kindergarten as well, but we switched it about 8 years ago because people were feeling that it was more important to have that relationship with families, that it was too hard to build a strong relationship with that many families, and that the relationship in kinder was really important. Mm-hmm. So so then we try to designate it by time. This is Spanish time, this is the English time. Also by space. So this is the English side, the English alphabet, and our English work, the kids' work that I'm putting up in English on this side of the wall, or on this side of the classroom, and then this is the Spanish side. And so we turn our bodies towards we orient ourselves towards whichever way we're learning, whichever language we're speaking in. And it's tricky. It doesn't always work out super neatly. I actually just switched classrooms this year to get a bigger classroom. So I haven't even set it up yet, but I don't know exactly how. But in my old classroom, I tried really hard to like divide, like this is the Spanish space and this is the English space. But sometimes it would get a little messy. Like in the library, I had Spanish book boxes and English book boxes on different shelves, but it's like still not, like it's in a corner that's sort of neither part of the room. So you can't like completely separate it physically, like just because of physical limitations sometimes. But even in the library, the Spanish book boxes are one color, the English book boxes are another color to help them understand. This is what we use Spanish time, this is what we use at English time. The board is tricky that way. Like I have the board divided in half, and all the Spanish stuff is on one side, all the English stuff is on the other. But our schedule is like the morning, all the things written out were in Spanish, and then all the things written out in English, and it's all in one place. So that there's like places where it's not perfect, but I think just trying to be very explicit about dividing each of those. And then also, as you know, the trickiest thing about learning literacy in both Spanish and English is the vowels. Oh, yes. So most of the other letter sounds transfer, but the vowels is really hard for kids. So we spend a lot of time in phonics on the vowel sounds.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I really like the fact that you guys kind of changed the ambience and you focus on one language, and then it's like a change of setting even though you're in the same classroom. I really like that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I guess with that being said, I know we're not physically there. And this question, I think I would have liked to ask you this question if we were physically in the classroom. But how are we going to teach language arts now? And I know I haven't seen it. I know I haven't seen it yet in the classroom, but man, I'm so eager to know. What are the plans?
Yeah, I am too, Maestra Paola. It's a great question. How are we going to do it now? It's so tricky because we have such a small time that we're in person with them. I don't think they could, I'm not trying to advocate for more Zoom time because I think it's plenty for kids this age, but so much about language is interaction, right? So to not be doing it live is really tricky. So we're trying to figure out which parts of the program that we usually use, which parts of that to put to be teaching synchronously and which parts to be teaching asynchronously. I don't know whether this will be synchronous or asynchronous, but one thing that we use that I think is very helpful for kids is poetry and songs. Mm-hmm. So that's not only it's teaching vocabulary, but it's also teaching like one-to-one correspondence by pointing, concepts of print, like print goes left to right, top to bottom, attending to the first sound in each word, those sorts of basic literacy things. And it's in the classroom, it looks like there's a big poem written up on the board. We do one in Spanish and one in English. And I model pointing to it, and then the kids come up and they're pointing to it, and our whole class sings along, and we'll keep the same poem for 2 weeks. So like usually like 1 week I'll introduce a new Spanish poem, the next week I'll introduce a new English poem, and we alternate, but each poem stays up there for 2 weeks. So what I'm trying to figure out right now is how to use those poems and get them to be looking at the words, right? Because it's so I do it usually with a pointer, and they can do it with a pointer. So now I'm sharing my screen and using the cursor to point underneath, and I'm telling them to point with their fingers, but I can't really tell if they're doing it.
Yeah.
So we're figuring that out. And then we decided, I think that the most important thing, like of everything that we're teaching, the thing that feels the most that we need to prioritize is literacy. So we're teaching in small group time, which I think is the place where we probably get the most bang for our buck. We're teaching phonics, and we still are not sure exactly like what things we're gonna do in that time, but this week it was we're focusing on 2 letters a week right now. Yeah, so this week it was using a letter of like my L book, my letter of the week book, and then I was trying to model for parents, because the nice thing about this situation is many students have their parents sitting right next to them. So modeling the sort of basic skills of like pointing under each word and using the first sound in the picture to figure out what the word is, with those very, very simple, these are level A, the first level of books. We're assessing kids this week, so I